We rise, humbly hearted rise, won't be divided, rise, with spirit to guide us, rise, in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here, and we rise. All of the children rise, elders with wisdom rise, ancestors surround us, rise. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here, and we rise.
Welcome to Acts of Change 2021.
Welcome to Acts of Change 2021.
Hi, welcome to Acts of Change.
Hi, welcome to Acts of Change. So happy to have you here.
Bienvenidos a Actos de Cambio.
Welcome to Acts of Change.
Hi, everybody.
Thanks for coming. Welcome to Acts of Change.
Welcome to Acts of Change. We're so happy that you're here.
We're so glad you're here.
Welcome to Acts of Change.
Bruchim habayim, and welcome to Acts of Change. I'm Rabbi Fred Reeves, and I'm the board president of the Jewish Council on Urban Affairs. We're streaming live on YouTube, so if you're joining us online, please introduce yourself in the comments. Tell us where you're located, and let us know why you chose to come to be with us this evening. Jewish tradition teaches us that when people gather and share words of Torah, the divine presence dwells amongst them. So, as we begin, I'll mention that this week in the Torah, we read, Ma tovu ohelecha Yaakov, mishkanetecha Yisrael. How fair are your tents, Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel. Now, if you'll pardon the rabbinic pun, we can see that in the past our dwellings were seen as fair, and through the JCUA's work on equitable housing, we are working to make housing fair for all. And that's terrible, but go with it. Acts of Change is JCUA's flagship event, where our entire community comes together to celebrate our collective impact across Chicago and Illinois. Over the next hour, we'll hear from JCUA members doing critical work on the ground. We'll enjoy music performances from Little Busy and Opal Staples. We'll honor Heather McGee with the Rabbi Robert J. Marks Social Justice Award and pay tribute to our late founder, Rabbi Marks, who passed away earlier this year and whose legacy will be felt for generations to come. As my term as president comes to a close, I look back on 2 years full of challenges that we have faced and great work that we have accomplished. For over 5 decades, JCUA has served as the Jewish voice for social justice in Chicago, and our work has never been more important than it is today. I'm so proud to have been board president, and personally, one of the best parts of these 2 years has been deepening my relationship with other board members, especially Karen Bass-Ehler. It is my great pleasure to introduce her to you now as the incoming board president. Karen has served on the JCUA board for 8 years and works as the general counsel at the Illinois Department of Public Health. JCUA's future is bright with Karen at the helm.
Thank you, Fred. This partnership has been amazing these last 2 years, and thank you for your support and encouragement. It is an amazing opportunity to be JCUA's next board president, and I'm grateful for your leadership, and I know I will have you to rely on in the years to come. For 57 years, JCUA has created the space for Jews across Chicago to pursue meaningful social change, and our work has never been more critical. We provide a mobilized base and powerful voice to address some of the biggest issues of our generation, including policing and public safety, immigration, housing, economic justice, and much more. But we cannot do this work without the financial support of the community we serve. Acts of Change is a moment to celebrate, but it's also an opportunity to ensure JCUA's financial sustainability into the future. We are excited to announce tonight that JCUA is launching the Rabbi Marks Fund for Justice, and we've received a generous $25,000 matching grant in his memory. Every dollar that you donate tonight will go to matching this $25,000 gift. At any time tonight, you can text AOC21 to 707070 to make a donation to JCUA. Anyone who gives more than $54 during tonight's program will receive a special gift, which we'll reveal a little later tonight. It is now with great pride that I introduce JCUA's Executive Director, Judy Levy.
Thank you, Fred and Karen, and welcome to Acts of Change. We find ourselves here once again, coming together virtually to celebrate the strength and success of our JCUA community. So much has happened in our city and world since I last spoke to you from almost exactly this spot. We've mourned family members and friends. We voted out an authoritarian president. We've seen and are seeing an alarming rise in anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and anti-Asian violence, expressions of hate that are dangerous to all of us. We've fought and continue to fight for the most critical issues of our day. We are so grateful that you are here with us tonight. Many of you have followed JCUA's long history of impact in Chicago and beyond. We take a root cause approach to combating systemic inequality. We look to the people most directly affected to lead and guide the work required to bring about change. We build relationships on a grassroots level to change the balance of power between those who get to thrive in our city and those who have to fight for access, including access to housing, safety, healthcare, and employment. Together with you, we are building a grassroots Jewish movement for justice in our world. We are movement builders, carrying forth the message from our Jewish tradition from the Book of Psalms, Olam Chesed Yibaneh. We are called upon to step up with courage and holy chutzpah to build a more just world. At JCUA today, here briefly is what movement building looks like. We are mobilizing our base of 2,000 members to take action. Through 3 standing issue committees, policing and community safety, immigration, and housing and economic justice, our members promote policies for equity and fairness to take hold in lasting ways. We are engaging young Jewish leaders through our Or Tzedek Teen Internship and College Age Fellowship. Our youth members have also started caucuses that lift up their identities and focus their activism in powerful ways. And we are thrilled to support them and learn from them. Through our Community Ventures program, we are a catalyst for affordable housing and economic development across Chicago. Our zero-interest loan fund has more than quadrupled in the past several years, allowing us to support 8 to 10 development initiatives each year. We are elevating racial equity across our work through training, investment in the Kol Or Jews of Color Caucus, growing our white racial justice working groups, and an ongoing examination of how we operate. Our goal is to bring more and more people closer to this Jewishly grounded, personal and organizational transformation that takes place through this work. This turbulent past year of reckoning has been like no other. JCUA has worked on racial justice since its founding, but as one of our partners expressed in a conversation earlier this week, how our society responds now and in the next few years will chart the course for the next 50. My pledge to you is that JCUA will lean into this moment. We will continue to listen and learn, to be a beacon for the Jewish community, and to strive to be the best version of ourselves. We will work to reform institutions that are not working for all people and dismantle systems that are beyond repair. We will continue, as we have always done, to carry out our mission with a clear sense of direction, meeting people where they're at and inviting them to join with us. We thank all of you who have supported this event so generously, and you won't be surprised to hear me say that we need the rest of you. JCUA is here every day, keeping our ears to the ground and doing the essential work to organize for change. If you believe in all that we stand for, please invest in a more just Chicago. I now have a few brief personal thank yous to share. A special thank you to Rabbi Fred Reeves as he leaves the role of board president after 2 years of wholehearted and thoughtful leadership. And to our outgoing, longtime board members, David Graham, Zach Braun, and Mike Rosenthal. Thank you all. And thank you to the truly amazing JCUA staff, with a shout out to Brian Gladstein and his team for everything about tonight. We are feeling the void this year of the recent loss of our beloved founder, after whom tonight's award is named, Rabbi Robert J. Marks. May his memory be for a blessing. Rabbi Marks's wisdom and mentorship had a profound impact on me personally, and I am honored to have been able to know him. This movement in Chicago, ignited by Rabbi Marks, carried forward by former JCUA Executive Director Jane Ramsey and many others, has been co-creating tangible change with diverse communities in our city for nearly 6 decades. I would now like to introduce a short video sharing what Rabbi Marks meant to us. He urged us to focus on the big picture beauty of life, with a solemn optimism and confidence in our ability to create change. Thank you again for your extraordinary partnership and for being with us this evening.
Rabbi Robert Marks was important to me because he was a man, a faith leader of profound courage, conviction, and humility.
He brought to the Jewish community and to Chicago a vision of how we as Jews connect with other communities, particularly the most oppressed communities, and how we work together to create a just world.
What was most important in his mind was that we are on the right side of history, and we are protesting with those that are dealing with white supremacy and oppression every day, no matter what the cost would be to our organization.
Rabbi Marks, for me, was grounded and rooted in understanding human beings and human rights.
He was an inclusive individual, and his work embodied that with the Jewish Council on Urban Affairs. He saw the community as being between the parts.
And to address racism, to address inequities, and to understand it was in our prophetic role as Jews to take on these issues. Justice, justice shalt thou pursue, was at the core of Marx's being.
Rabbi Marx's impact on the social justice movement here in Chicago was one that is underappreciated, partly because of the profound humility of this human being. But I think among so many things that he modeled that left an indelible impression on me was the ability for faith leaders to call out injustices, call up to an aspirational model of what the world could look like.
I now want to read an excerpt from a letter that Rabbi Marks wrote to the Jewish community about why he decided to march with Martin Luther King Jr. in Marquette Park. You may ask what my trip this afternoon has to do with Judaism.
Is it not a waste of my time and of your money? I pray you do not feel this way.
That you see Judaism as relevant to the problems of our times.
That you see a need for prophetic voices in our age.
Though heaven knows mine is not.
That you are willing to take a few risks to make Judaism's dreams of a messianic world come true.
You may think that I am insensitive to the criticism that I know has been voiced on many occasions over my involvement in civil rights causes.
Why don't I spend more time on Judaism?
Why do I dissipate so much of my energy on a cause that is not ours?
I am aware of these criticisms, and I am pained by them.
For you see, I feel that freedom is Judaism.
And that Passover is not 3,000 years old.
That it is today, and that we are a part of it.
One last thing about the letter that is not only courageous, but perhaps unprecedented for faith leaders to get to a point to suggest that their irrelevance is more dangerous than their non-existence. And that is a powerful challenge.
The issues that we're grappling with in Congress today, the fight for a peaceful world that provides justice and equality for everyone, remain, I think, the legacy of Rabbi Marx.
The lasting legacy of Rabbi Marx, in my humble opinion, is his ability to connect with people, all people. And when he started JCUA, he didn't start it to give people answers. He started to help people find their own answers.
I know that JCUA will continue to carry on the legacy of Rabbi Marx by doing the work that he started over 56 years ago, fighting all forms of oppression, and that's the work that we will be doing for the next 57 years.
Just a poor boy, though my story's seldom told. I've squandered my resistance for a pocket full of mumbles. Such are promises, all lies and jest. Still the man hears what he wants to hear and disregards the rest. When I left my home and family, I was no more than a boy in the company of strangers, the quiet of the railway station, running scared, laying low, seeking out the poorer quarters where the ragged people go, looking for the places only they would know. La la la, la la la, la la la, la la la, la la la. Asking only workmen's wages, I come looking for a job, but I get no offers. Just a come on from the folks on 7th Avenue. I do declare there were times when I was so lonesome I took some comfort there. La la la, la la la, la la la, la la la. La 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 la. Now I'm laying out my winter clothes and wishing I was gone, going home, where the New York City winters are and bleeding me, bleeding. Clearing stands the boxer and a fighter by his trade, and he carries the reminders for every glove that laid him down or cut him till he cried out in his anger and his shame. I
housing is at the root of all of our issues. When you have housing and it's stable, you can start getting to know your neighbors. You can start building real power when you can stay in one spot. And that is really not something we can take for granted in Chicago.
We think the Community Ventures program is a perfect way to have a Jewish community effect on underinvested areas in the city, and it gives JCUA the financial wherewithal to make a real change by giving pre-development loans very early on in a project.
So we collect donated furniture from all over the Chicagoland area, and as people transition from homelessness and shelters into their new homes, they're able to come in, pick out all the furniture they need.
So we're really that one-stop shop to make their house feel like a home. In this new warehouse, we're on the first floor, we have more loading docks to allow us to expand our capacity. We're gonna be able to do 5,000 homes per year, which is about 20 per day, and we'll be the largest furniture bank in the country.
JCUA definitely allowed us to capitalize on the perfect space at the perfect time.
So many of us have family connections to that area. It only amplifies the good things that we can do.
I'm grateful that the CVP program is there to be able to benefit those neighborhoods in particular.
Ever since I joined JCUA, I've been dreaming of the day when we had a housing justice committee. When we had the opportunity to have a member-led proposal process, I was so excited to put forward a housing justice campaign.
The Bring Chicago Home campaign is a citywide coalition of community organizations who are aiming to create a dedicated revenue stream to address homelessness in Chicago.
Chicago puts the least per person of investment into addressing homelessness.
Unless the city creates really proactive solutions to create housing for folks, this problem is going to grow even more. So we know from data, from talking to people, we know for a lot of reasons that permanent supportive housing is the proven solution to ending homelessness for households. Our solution for doing this is to change the real estate transfer tax to make it progressive.
This campaign is going to be intense, and we're going to need to have a lot of people power.
Even in the couple of short months that JCUA has been a member, the organization has supported the campaign in really huge ways.
It feels full circle that JCUA is working on housing justice issues, given kind of the origins of JCUA. And that rich history, that lives in JCUA's DNA. And for us to be able to continue to show that progressive Jews are part of the fight for equitable and affordable housing in Chicago, I think that's something joyous and sacred and something that we should fully embrace.
Good evening, Shalomies. My name is Sydney Wallace, and I'm a proud member of the JCUA Board, a co-founder of JCUA's Kolor Jews of Color Caucus, and an active member on JCUA's Community Safety Committee.
And I'm Steve Rothschild, and I am also a proud member of the JCUA Board and the Community Safety Committee.
You know, Steve, I've got to be a little honest. I'm a bit disappointed that we couldn't be in person again this year.
YouTube, it's just not the same thing as being together in person.
But we're so glad to have such an amazing group of people joining us online as we have important work to do. As Karen mentioned earlier, we are raising money tonight for the newly established Rabbi Marks Fund for Justice. We received a generous $25,000 matching grant in his memory to get the fund started.
Rabbi Marks just continues to teach us and shape this dynamic organization. And it's such a powerful way for everyone to honor the legacy of our founder. Every single donation tonight will be matched dollar for dollar up to $25,000.
Your donations will have a double impact tonight, and more importantly, we need your support to make Chicago a city that is free of poverty, racism, and anti-Semitism.
Later in the program, you will see an example of what JCUA members can produce when we come together to envision the future of community safety. And we're excited to announce that anyone who gives $54 or more tonight will receive a special piece of art documenting the process.
That sounds exciting. I can't wait to learn more. We'll be back a little later in the program to talk about the impact of your donations. We are counting on you to help us reach our goal. If you're feeling inspired, please text AOC21 to 707070 to make a gift, or you can make a donation at the URL below.
Thank you, and we'll be back later in the program to talk more about how you can make a difference tonight.
7 years ago, JCUA made a major decision when we transformed our organization by creating a membership model based in community organizing. We decided it was important to deeply mobilize the Jewish community to work in coalition on the most important issues facing our city today. Our organizing is making an impact. We know it takes all of us to create the change our city needs.
To really, truly transform the world, all of us does have to mean all of us. And one of the things I think JCUA does so well is never compromises the values of doing things in the most just way, but doesn't say you can't come with us because you don't agree on X or you don't agree on Y. We don't have, a litmus test to walk into the room.
JCUA has put a lot of effort into cultivating a space that brings people together from all across the city, all across the suburbs. You have college students and high school students working alongside people who could be their grandparents, right? And allies and coalition partners, just bringing together so many people.
We are breaking down the barriers that have been built up over the generations that have divided us.
I love organizing intergenerationally because it's important to apply the past to the present of social justice to create a better future.
It makes us more welcoming, and it's us enacting our values.
We have 2,000 members and 15 congregation partners across Chicago taking action, and 3 standing issue committees.
I think what JCUA does really is build relationships with the people who are most impacted by systemic injustice, and then trains the Jewish community how to show up.
Everyone is working together, trying to change things for social justice for everyone in Chicago and even in America.
We are moving the needle on immigration justice in our city and state, with several hard-won victories to make Chicago and Illinois more welcoming to immigrants. We are demanding police accountability, and we are a key partner in the Empowering Communities for Public Safety Coalition. Through a member-driven process, we have just inaugurated a campaign to bring Chicago home by creating a consistent revenue stream for permanent supportive housing.
My vision for Chicago is to turn it upside down.
We're just getting started.
Here at JCUA, we're building a city and a community that works for everybody, that ensures that there's safety for all people. And I think it's our responsibility to do this work.
To me, Judaism is really about giving us a framework to lead meaningful lives and build a more just world. The more we can use Judaism to both be building really strong communities of people who take care of each other and also look outward, the more we are bringing holiness to the world.
It takes all of us.
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 And we're back.
We hope you've been enjoying Acts of Change so far and that you're inspired by all of the amazing work that JCUA and our members, like Sydney here, have been doing all year long.
And like Steve. Yes, JCUA has been doing tremendous work. We've now arrived at a critical part of the program in which we ask for your support to sustain JCUA into the future. Your funds are essential to fuel our organizing, expand our training and engagement, build our youth programs, and much, much more. We know that the strength of any movement is a combination of organized people and organized money. So we need both. So let's get started. Remember, at any time, you can text AOC21 to 707070 to make a donation. We need your support. Remember, every dollar you donate during the program, up to $25,000 tonight, will go to the newly created Rabbi Marks Fund for Justice.
We want to start tonight by asking for a couple of people, just a few, it could be more than two, to be true menschas, friends of JCUA, and to donate at the advocate level of $3,600. It sounds like a big number, and it kind of is, but I know there are people out there who can do this.
There are definitely people that can do this, truly. So thank you so much to everyone who gave $3,600 and joined us as a major sponsor of tonight's event. We have one other sponsorship level that we are asking for tonight. Who can sponsor our event at the leader level of $1,800?
It is so inspirational to see support coming in at this $3,600 and $1,800 level, and we'll be adding your names as sponsors of tonight's event.
You know, Steve, over the last almost 5 years, I'm constantly asked, why am I spending so much of my time volunteering with JCUA? And honestly, it's because their goals align with mine. Creating a more equitable city is a personal goal of mine. To not only leave the world as a better place for my children, but for everyone's children. No exceptions.
No exceptions.
Keep telling us in the chat why JCUA is important to you.
Thanks so much for sharing, Sydney. And for all of you who are posting in the chat, the Community Ventures program is where JCUA provides the critically needed funds through zero-interest loans to jumpstart projects that promote affordable housing and living wage jobs. Your donation of $1,000 can support these economic development programs across Chicago. I know how important these startup funds can be to nonprofits, and I suspect that many of you believe in this program as we do. Your $1,000 donation will make a real difference as we work to address homelessness, affordable housing, and economic inequality throughout Chicago.
We absolutely need your support to continue our work. Donate now by texting AOC21 to 707070. Tonight, our goal is to reach $25,000, and remember, every dollar will be matched dollar for dollar. Now, for $720, you can pay for a young Jewish leader to participate in JCUA's Orzetic or College Fellowship program. These programs are essential to building the next generation of Jewish leaders. My daughter is now doing her second Orzetic program with JCUA. She says she enjoys meeting other activists her age and is happy JCUA doesn't drown out the youth voice. I've also noticed how confident she seems when she's talking about the campaigns and when she's phone banking for them.
That's why it is so important that we find at least 3 people to donate $720 right now. I know you're out there, so come on, pull out the phone, text AOC21 to 707070 to make your gift. You can also make a donation online at the website below.
Okay, so now we're looking for 5 people to give at the $500 level to fund a community building event for JCUA's Kolor Jews of Color Caucus. As one of the founders of Kolor, I've been extremely pleased with how fast we've been growing over these last few years. We created a space for Jews of color by Jews of color to bring our full selves to our organizing campaigns. We've also helped create events that not only entertain but educate, such as our film screenings and our flagship event, the Juneteenth Havdalah. That was just a few days ago.
Kolor members haven't just elevated our anti-racism work, but their voices have really informed everything that we do in Chicago. JCUA brings together all of those voices of the Jewish community, and that's made possible by all of you who have donated so far. We are getting so close to our goal, Sydney. So close. We are now asking you to support our annual Legislative Day of Action in Springfield by donating $360. JCUA plays such an important role in passing progressive statewide legislation on immigrant justice, working with our community partners.
Sounds like we need at least 10 people who can contribute $360.
At least 10. Sydney, I cannot believe this amazing outpouring of support we're getting from our members. A few minutes ago, we were talking about why we care so much about JCUA, and I just remembered another reason. JCUA never rests on our laurels. I mean, we don't kick back ever. So in the last few months, we have joined the campaign to end homelessness in Chicago by participating in the Bring Chicago Home campaign. And for $180, you can support a membership action or rally for this critical campaign to address Chicago's homelessness and affordable housing crisis.
An incredibly important campaign, Steve. You think there are 15 people who can make a $180 contribution? 20? 20 people. I think there's at least 20, 25 people who can make a $180 contribution.
Easily 30.
We appreciate everything you are doing tonight, and if you haven't given yet, this would be an ideal time to do it. Text us at AOC21 to 707070.
It's our goal that everyone who's watching tonight gives something meaningful. Whatever's meaningful to you is impactful to us. We're now at the $100 level, and for that amount, you'll be funding the cost of one member attending a JCUA racial justice training. There are 18 people who can give at the $100 level and help us kickstart the Rabbi Marks Fund for Justice. As you know, every dollar tonight is matched 1-for-1 up to $25,000. I am so inspired to see all of these donations coming in. I have never been more proud to be a JCUA board member.
I completely agree, Steve. I know that many of the people joining us tonight are members of JCOR. That's our space where members from different campaigns come together to brainstorm our organizing work.
That's right. Hey, JCOR. You know, as this COVID year winds down, we are looking so forward to having our JCOR meetings in person again. We can be together like this. And we are looking for 20 people right now to give $72. We know you're watching and have the ability to sponsor our next JCOR meeting, so please give now if you haven't yet.
All right, Steve, time to roll up our sleeves. We're now looking for at least 25 people who can give at just $54.
What does community safety mean to you? What does it look like to win the world that we want? What are we organizing for, and like what actually happens when we get there?
You have to know what you're fighting against, but you really have to know what you're fighting for.
Today you get to put that down and collage on a 6x9 sheet of paper. 30 mini collages, one larger collective collage. All the members are coming together, bringing something different, but like adding to this greater whole. Get out of your head, get into your hands, really make something that captures like why you do what you do and like why you show up all the time is a really powerful part of this community. But we're not about like the finished product, we're about the making and the process, being with one another in community.
Whatever we're feeling will come out and be expressed on that paper. A lot of people have been traumatized by the police, and that trauma continues when police are not held accountable. And that trauma just stays in. I think art has been a great way for us to release some of that trauma. Today, we can be in the moment.
I know that we've been asking for a lot this evening, but it takes a lot of support to be the premier Jewish voice for social justice, not just in Chicago, but in the U.S. So we are now at our final level of $36. Are there 30 people who can make just a $36 contribution, $3 a month, and you are a member of JCUA?
We want you to know any gift that is meaningful to you is meaningful to us. Please continue to give. We need you and we appreciate you. That's why, as Steve said, anyone who donates tonight becomes a member because yes, organized money is important to the work, but so is organized people.
And we are so grateful to these organized people.
So grateful.
Thank you so much for everyone who gave so far this evening. This is a beautiful way to honor Rabbi Marks's legacy, and we're thrilled to create this fund with your contributions tonight.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Opal Staples, and I heard this song for the first time when I moved to Chicago, and I fell in love with this song. It speaks about freedom. It speaks about the road that you take to find and acquire that freedom. And the beautiful thing about freedom is everybody's trying to get it. No matter what color you are, no matter what race you are, we all want to be free.
I just wanna be free.
Yeah, yeah, hang on to the world as it spins around. Just don't let the spin get you down. Things are moving fast. Hold on tight and you will last. Keep your self-respect, your man the pride. Get yourself in gear. Keep your stride. Never mind your fears. A brighter day will soon be here. Take it from me, someday we'll all be free. Yes. Someday we'll all be free. Ooh. I'm praying for freedom. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ooh. Keep on walking tall. Hold your head up high. Lay your dreams right up to the sky. Sing your greatest song. You'll keep going, going on. Ooh. Take it from me, someday we'll all be free. Hey, just wait and see. Someday we'll all be free. I do believe that. Take it from me, someday we'll all be free. Ooh, take it from me, someday we'll all be free.
JCOA, it's so fabulous to be with you. I have, over the many years, decades really, worked with JCUA and your leaders, and been a supporter and partner in many of the issues that you've worked on for social justice. And I really, really appreciate the opportunity to be with you today. Each year, JCUA presents the Rabbi Marks Award for Social Justice to a leader who embodies the values JCUA's founder, Rabbi Marks, lived and taught throughout his life. Carrying forward his legacy, JCUA is building a multiracial, intergenerational, and grassroots movement that centers solidarity, equity, and justice for all people. And that is why it is perfect that this year, JCUA honors Heather McGhee, an author, change maker, and leading voice for social justice.
Thank you so much for this beautiful award. I'm so really just touched and moved to be welcomed into a long line of award recipients, including you, Congresswoman, and really want to dedicate this to the memory of Rabbi Marks, who has recently, of course, made his homegoing, as we say. It's really quite touching and moving for me to be welcomed into the JCUA family in this way. So thank you.
So Heather, JCUA wants to know what really motivated you to write this book.
Thank you for the question. You know, I wrote this book out of a little bit of frustration, a little bit of hope. I'd spent nearly 20 years helping to build the progressive economic and democracy think tank Demos, and had been working to try to get good, sound data and research about the scope of the problems facing American families into the hands of policymakers. And with few exceptions, you being one of the absolutely most reliable exceptions, it seemed like so many of the issues that we kept bringing to lawmakers fell on deaf ears, and that there was an undercurrent that was making it harder for us to reach the shores of progress. And so, particularly after Donald Trump became the president of the United States, I decided that I needed to pick up a different set of tools, not just research and facts and economic data, but rather these core underlying questions of who belongs, who deserves, what our relative status is to one another, and figure out why it was that these questions were often leading us apart and leading us to solutions that were woefully inadequate to the problems at hand. Questions that in the United States often seem to turn on race. And so that's why I left my job. I set out on a journey across the country over the course of 3 years to write The Sum of Us.
Heather, this is kind of personal for you. You were raised in Chicago. Your family faced discriminatory housing policies in the 1960s when your grandma bought her house on contract. In fact, Rabbi Marks founded JCUA in the 1960s to support mostly African-American families that were evicted after buying houses on contract. So can you talk about your family's history?
Well, I just love this way that the McGhee family story and the JCUA and Rabbi Marks family story converge in that way. It's one of those beautiful examples of cross-racial solidarity and people coming together to stand up for one another. So I love that part of the story that we're unearthing tonight. Yes, my great grandmother actually, who lived, she edged out Rabbi Marks a little bit. She lived to be 103 years old. Flossie McGhee was a domestic worker on the south side of Chicago, who also was really great at playing the numbers. And so with those two sources of income, she was able to buy land on contract in Chicago, a house at apartment building at 82nd in Maryland. And, I didn't know about that until a few years ago, right? I didn't know what the terms were of the house that I was born in, the apartment building that I was born in. And it really was an eye opener for me to see that. But I was aware that, the laws that shaped and segregated the community that I was born in on the south side of Chicago had created, a 95% Black neighborhood. And that as I traveled the city, we moved around a lot. I lived in Hyde Park. We lived in Evanston and Oak Park. I even as a kid, I was aware of how things changed as our community and my neighbors became whiter. I was aware of it in terms of, how well resourced the parks and schools were, but I was also aware of it in a subtle shift in sort of the expectations and the way that community bonds were made, and a sense that I think a lot of people who grew up in sort of the glory days of Chicago's South Side, we had a very strong community feeling, and a feeling that everybody, no matter what they were doing, was also, kind of doing it a little bit for the community and for one another, and the sense of loss of that as the family became more upwardly mobile and moved more to opportunity, and yet lost a little bit of sense of that community. Also just the reality of living proximate to real poverty, right? We had some cousins who were doing far better than us and some cousins who were doing far worse. And we never learned to sort of peg that to people's inherent worth. And I think that's really important. And it's something that is lost when we have segregation, economic and racial segregation, the way we do in so many parts of the city and of Chicagoland.
In your book, you speak about the zero-sum ideology that is harming all Americans. The book cover depicts a parable that you use throughout the book about draining of public swimming pools. How has racism dismantled the economic opportunities and progress for both communities of color and white people?
Yes, and everyone in between. This to me felt like a missing piece of the puzzle to explain the question that really launched me on my journey, which is, why can't we seem to have nice things? And by nice things, I don't mean laundry that does itself. I mean things like universal childcare and wages that keep workers out of poverty, and universal health care and paid family leave and well-funded public schools in every neighborhood. The things that a country with the economy and the size that we do, with the creativity and ingenuity and grit of our people, should be able to provide for ourselves. Things that are most acute in communities of color, the need for those, but that hold in common most white folks too. And one of the first places I went on my journey was Montgomery, Alabama, where I visited a park called Oak Park and walked the grounds of what used to be this glittering, over 1,000 swimmer, publicly funded swimming pool. And what I discovered there really became the parable at the heart of the book. And so when the 1950s and 60s, in the wake of Brown v. Board of Education, Black families were able to finally advocate and say, hey, those are our tax dollars. We want our children to swim too. Cities and towns across the country opted to drain their public swimming pools rather than integrate them. So what did that mean, right? It meant that obviously white families that had depended on and enjoyed this sort of common gathering place lost out. It meant that Black families never got to enjoy it. It meant that upper middle class and wealthy white families could build backyard swimming pools, but that meant they were swimming alone. And then there were all these private membership only swim clubs that joined, that sort of cropped up across the country. But I use this as a parable to describe what happened to our entire economy when we shifted from the sort of New Deal ethos into the era that would grow to become the neoliberal era, what I call the inequality era, when the majority of white voters turned their backs on the political party that had been the party of the New Deal, once that party also became the party of civil rights. And when they turned their backs on a formula that had largely created the white middle class, because it required a sense of collective action, whether through government or through labor unions, that would bring them shoulder to shoulder with the people that they had been taught by that same government's policies to disdain and distrust. So that for me helped explain how we got to this place where 1% of the population owns more wealth than the entire middle class, and where we're missing out on so many of the public goods that we all need to thrive.
You present ways to reframe this zero-sum theory, including what you call the solidarity dividend. I love that. How can we ensure that we do not repeat the divisive racial and economic mistakes of the past?
Well, I think that one of the most important things we can do is ask ourselves, who is struggling today in our community? And ask ourselves, how can we have their backs, right? How can we stand up for them? How can we speak out for them? And how can we do so in ways that aren't about charity, but are about justice? And aren't about helping people who are struggling make better decisions and better choices, but rather are about helping people not have to make the choice between keeping their lights on and paying their rent, right? This is really the question of our time. We have seen so many beautiful instances of solidarity. I'm thinking right now of the way that so many Jewish community members stood up against family separation and the atrocities at the border. I'm thinking of the so many chapters of Jews for Black Lives across the country. And I'm thinking of the way in which so many communities have been activated who are not Jewish about the naked anti-Semitism and rise of Nazism and white supremacy and hate in our country. And that is really when we are doing our best. When we are doing our worst, we fall for the kind of dog whistles and distractions that are not about our common humanity, and the simple fact that no matter who we love or where we're from or how we worship, we really, when it comes down to it all basically want the same things, right? We want safety for our families. We want to be able to meet our basic needs and to have a shot at fulfilling our dreams. And that's really the high water, right? The high ground that we can reach together.
What do you see as the role and importance of organizations like JCOA, who mobilize the people of Chicago to advance racial and economic justice? What can JCOA be doing to end this cycle of racism and the zero-sum ideology in its work moving forward?
I really applaud what JCUA has built over generations and as a real piece of the moral progressive infrastructure in the community. And the more that the organizing can really deal head on with these issues of racial division, can really include consciousness raising about the ways that the forces of the status quo are seeking to divide us by race and get us trapped in this zero-sum thinking, and equip organizers to go out in the community and talk about solidarity dividends and talk about the mutual benefits that could come from integrated neighborhoods, from fair funding and really refilling the pool of public goods for everyone in Chicago and beyond. I think more than anything now, that racial divide and conquer and scapegoating is our biggest threat to progress. And it is the one big hurdle that we still have to leap over in order to have the kind of community that all of our people deserve. So I'm just feeling very, very hopeful at this moment when a multiracial group of Americans, a majoritarian anti-racist coalition came together in November and January to make sure that you, Congresswoman, and your colleagues had the power to meet the needs of the American people with the American Rescue Plan and the Jobs Plan and the Families Plan. To cut child poverty in half in one bill reminds us that poverty is a choice, and it's a choice we don't have to make anymore. So I'm feeling very, very encouraged, more than I've been in a long time, and really grateful to your leadership and to the leadership of your partners back home in your district, including JCUA. Thank you.
We want to wish a huge mazel tov to Heather McGee for receiving the Rabbi Marks Award.
Congrats to you, Heather, and a toda rabah for all of the amazing work you're doing to move our country forward.
We just wanted to let you know that we are nearing our target for the night. You can help us get over the top right now by texting AOC21 to 707070. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and thank you to everyone who has donated so far. Before we go, I want to reiterate that it is not too late to give. For any of you still thinking about making a contribution, now is the perfect time. What I love about JCUA is that we all have a role to play. There's no job too big and no job too small. Collectively, we will create the world that we all deserve. So please take this opportunity and do your part by donating at any level. And if you donate at least $54 by texting AOC21 to 707070 before we sign off, you will receive a high-quality print of the amazing art piece created by JCUA members. Thank you to everyone who made tonight a major success: the sponsors, donors, members, JCUA staff, and board members who worked together to create this wonderful program. I may be saying goodnight, but not goodbye. I'm excited to work deeply with this community as the next board president, and we have too much important work to do. As long as there is injustice and inequity in the world, you know that JCUA will be on the front lines taking courageous stances, organizing for systemic change, and serving as an inspiration for our community. So that's a wrap. I look forward to celebrating with each and every one of you next year, hopefully safely and in person. Goodbye for now, and see you again soon.